What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Between the Cons. My name is Kris, and with me today, Kris Too.
Yeah.
Just so many yeahs. Yeah. Dane changed his thing to MF Doom lyrics, so you're taking over his yeah thing. Or he said hey.
He said hey, yeah.
So you're just turning it around. You're just reading it backwards. Yeah.
We're actually doing this whole podcast backwards.
Well, that's not true.
So I would play it backwards to understand what we're saying.
I would be doing way cooler things if we were recording backwards. Be on America's Got Talent or something stupid. Anyways, quick shout outs to everybody that's hit us up on the internet this week. We like that. Glad you do that. To everybody that's left a review on the iTunes store, keep doing that. If you haven't, please do. Rate, review, do whatever you want to do. Or if you're listening on Google Play, do it on the Play Store. If you're on iHeartRadio, I think there's an option to thumbs up the station. Whatever you want to do on whatever platform you're on, show us some love. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because it's cool. It's cool. It helps people find the show. It makes us more popular. And
it's lonely here on the internet.
God knows the nerds need some popularity. But anyways, we got a Topic Thunder episode for you. We're going to be talking about Wonder Woman, going through a little history, giving you some ideas of some comics to read before the movie comes out here in a couple weeks. So stay tuned, because we're going to be back right after this segue. All right, so like I said, we are talking about Wonder Woman today. We're going to be running through a little bit of history, just a little bit about Wonder Woman, really, for those of you that might not know too much about her, and then give you, if you're interested, give you a handful of comics that would be a great place to start to familiarize yourself with the character, fall in love with the character, drool over the character.
Yes.
But the movie, as we all know, starring Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, and a bajillion other big name actors and actresses. Yeah. It's coming out on June 2nd, so next Friday. It's going to be, hopefully, a really great time. Fingers crossed for Warner Brothers. Sending all my good vibes their way.
Oh, please be good.
If I ever wanted a win for DC, it's for this movie. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And I think if I've ever needed a win for DC, it's this movie.
Right. Especially on this podcast when you're surrounded by Marvel fanboys.
Yeah.
You're in pretty deep right now. You need a W.
I need it for me, but I also need it for my wife, because my wife, I love Wonder Woman. I really have loved Wonder Woman for a long time. I really love the character. My wife loves Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And it's a huge opportunity.
Is Batman to me, and I have all these Batman movies that I can fall back on should another Batman movie come out that sucks. But this is the only one that we're
and
gotten.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it's a huge opportunity for Warner Brothers and DC. It's been 30 years, almost 40 years since the last big live action Wonder Woman thing. And they have such a huge opportunity, especially in this atmosphere, this environment, the social culture, to create a Wonder Woman that is empowering while also doing loads of fan service to fans that are young enough to have not been alive in the 70s and did not get to experience Linda Carter in all of her wonder. Get it? Wonder.
We got jokes on this podcast.
But I think it's a great opportunity. I'm really crossing my fingers for it, and that's legitimate. And for our seasoned listeners, that's a really out of character thing for me to say. I love hating on DC.
But you also do appreciate when good characters are written well and
I
stories
do.
are
And
written well. And
I love DC. Like, I have on my bookshelf, given probably 80% of it is Marvel Comics, probably, well, let's say 70. 70% of it is Marvel Comics, 15% of it is Image Comics, and then 10% of it, that's not good math, 10% of it is DC, and the other 5% is like super indie comics. There we go. I think that's 100. If I didn't do that right, I'm sorry.
No, I think you're right.
I have too many. I have more comics than 100%. That's how I am.
Yeah, that's how big into it he is.
Yeah. But no, I love DC. I like really well written stories. I feel like there are some really, really excellent Wonder Woman stories out there.
And that's what we want to tell you guys about today.
And that's what we want to tell you guys about today. So history of Wonder Woman. Let's just jump right into that. So Kris, lead the way.
So yeah, we're doing this really quickly, but we only want to bring it up because Wonder Woman is a part of the big three of DC. You got Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. She's a founding member of the Justice League, has been around for nearly as long as DC has been around. She celebrated her 75th year last October.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah, but what's crazy is that I find there are a lot of people that they know who she is, but they don't know much about her, which is kind of shocking for a character that's been around for that long and does have quite a bit of popularity behind her. So,
is one of the most popular characters under an imprint, under a publication.
Yeah, so if you're one of those people that you are aware of Wonder Woman's existence but don't know much about her, Wonder Woman was created in October of 1941 by an American psychologist and writer, William Moulton Marston. Now,
makes perfect sense.
This is one of the things that I think is really interesting about the fact, and it makes sense that he made Wonder Woman, because William Moulton Marston was a psychologist who was already famous for inventing the polygraph, and his character has. Yeah, the lie detector, and his character has one of her most iconic pieces of equipment is her lasso of truth, which compels people to tell the truth. And I just think it's kind of interesting that he folded part of his life into this character. But so he was already famous for inventing that, and then he struck upon an idea for a new kind of superhero, and he said, one who would not triumph with fists or firepower, but with love. And he credited his wife with saying, fine, but make her a woman. Because again, in the 1940s, pretty much all popular characters were men. And so to have a popular female superhero character was a big deal and really not that common.
Not many leading ladies except for Rosie the Riveter back then.
Right. And Marston actually, he drew upon many of the early feminist leaders of the time and the feminist iconography of the 1940s. He drew on that inspiration and developed this character of Wonder Woman, who has, from her very inception all the way to today, has continued to evolve in her role as a leader and a representative for equality and understanding. And that's not to say that she's not a fighter, and definitely as she's evolved, her the way she fights has definitely evolved and changed and gotten really cool. But something that's been core to her character since the beginning is if she's able to use diplomacy or reach out to somebody with empathy to try to reach them that way instead of just punching them in the face, she will take that approach. She'll try that. So giving just providing something a little different. But Wonder Woman, she is the princess of the Amazons on the paradise island of Themyscira, and the Amazons deriving from Greek mythology and all of that. And Diana was born when her mother Hippolyta sculpted her from clay, and she was granted life by the goddess Aphrodite. And there have been a lot of changes to her character over the years, just like any character that's been around for 75 years, of course. But that core motivation of fighting for justice and peace while inhabiting man's world has continued to be her driving force. So that's quick nutshell of what Wonder Woman is.
Very quick nutshell.
Yeah, she's She, and like I said, just because she wants to use diplomacy and peace doesn't mean she doesn't fight. In the comics, in DC Comics, she's actually regarded as a superior fighter with a mastery over many ancient and modern forms of armed and unarmed combat, including many forms of martial arts that are exclusive to the Amazons. In recent years, her power has grown due to her divine lineage and certain aspects and abilities being unlocked or discovered. She has super strength, speed, endurance, and flight, and she's actually considered to be able to go toe to toe with Superman.
I'm just gonna say this.
Yeah,
I'm really sad that she can fly now, because I miss the invisible jet.
and it's really interesting because I mean, the invisible jet is definitely one of the parts of her history that
It's one
is
of the
iconic.
most laughable superhero
And it's so
icons.
cheesy, and it is and they definitely, and it's very obvious, like when we got to the 80s and kind of the rebranding for Wonder Woman, they gave her the ability of flight and kind of put the invisible jet to the side. But we have seen in a lot of recent comics the invisible jet come back and be explained in different ways.
Yeah, well, even in the Lego game, what's it called, where you make the Lego characters and then you can play them in the video game?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Dimensions. She has the invisible jet in Lego Dimensions, which I know because I have the Wonder Woman invisible jet Lego Dimensions figurine on my desk at work, even though I don't own the game.
I have a few of the figures as well. I don't own the game either, but some of those figures are really cool. And they have actually addressed it, and probably the most common thread we'll see that you can see the invisible jet in a lot of modern iterations, and they'll say the Amazons lived on Paradise Island for centuries, and even though they were separated from man's world, that doesn't mean that they didn't continue to develop technology. Just their technology developed differently than the rest of the world's, and so they have this they develop aircraft or something similar to jets that can also be invisible, and so it is something that modern writers have actually brought back and tried to reshape and reimagine. So the invisible jet isn't gone in modern iterations, but she still can fly. It's just when she has to, I guess, bring people with her, she also has the invisible jet. So and matter of fact, just talking about her fighting abilities, Batman has said that she is the best melee fighter that he's ever seen, because she has all these abilities.
She fights with bracelets and a lasso. She better be good melee.
Yeah, and mentioning her weapons, I mean, she has her iconic
and her
armor,
sword and shield.
And she has her iconic armor that has evolved and changed, but it's kind of been the same motif. The red and white and blue motif with the gold eagle on the chest has been there pretty much throughout since the beginning. And she will use swords and shields and axes and Grecian weapons, but her most famous elements are her bulletproof bracelets, which are the Aegis of Athena, and her lasso of truth, the lariat of Hestia. And the bulletproof bracelets, I think, as far as I know, pretty much all the way through till today have still been deemed as still unbreakable, indestructible, and something that was gifted to her and is a part of her, just a part of her, I guess, armor and her iconography. And then she has the lasso of truth, which actually plays into a lot of her character development, which we'll talk about here in the comics for a second. So that's a quick breakdown of who she is. We have the movie coming out, but there have been other iterations of Wonder Woman. The most popular, or I guess the most widely known, is the live-action Wonder Woman TV show that ran in the 70s, starring Linda Carter. Ran from 75 to 79 for 3 seasons. And
God, I hope she makes a cameo in the movie.
It would be really great if she made a cameo. I mean, this is the Wonder Woman that was of our parents' generation. This is the Wonder Woman when I get really excited and I show the new Wonder Woman trailer to my family and my parents, and my dad then responds, "There's no other Wonder Woman than Linda Carter. Linda Carter's the only Wonder Woman." I was like, "Yeah, okay, Dad, but she's
whatever you
much
say,
older
boss.
now." Yeah. So
still, I think she's 65.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of her wealth, She looks really good for 65.
Oh, she does look good. But and I mean, and I've watched quite a bit of that Wonder Woman TV show, and it's very 70s. Very 70s. It is comedic. It's not as cheesy as the 60s Batman, which I also have like that guilty pleasure for.
Oh yeah.
But it's still got that comedic. It's still got some of that 70s cheesiness to it. But it was still well regarded, and Linda Carter's performance in particular was celebrated as it should have been.
Oh, definitely.
So I agree. I would love it if they found a way to have Linda Carter just have a cameo in the movie. I think it'd be a great
even if it was just like the equivalent of like a Stan Lee cameo in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like just, she's there as herself or as some random bystander.
Just something like a passing of the guard, or who knows. Yeah, like it could be cool.
Like even if it was just goofy, I think it would be. I just think it'd be cool to see Linda Carter like there.
Yeah. So that's the most famous live action version that we've had. The ways that people probably from our generation would know of Wonder Woman would be her appearance in the Justice League animated series.
Dang right.
Which the Justice League animated series from Warner Brothers Animation was great, and Wonder Woman's portrayal in that show was excellent. It's classic Wonder Woman, but showing her to be an equal part of the team, and she's an awesome fighter. And
wasn't she in the Super Friends too?
Oh, you're right. She was. I mean,
that's
Super Friends.
That's definitely way older, but
she was
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah. But her appearance in the Justice League animated series that we had going into the early 2000s was iconic and really great. The other animated form that I really love and I highly recommend is Warner Brothers animated movies that they've been doing now for several years are, for the most part, a lot of them are really great.
Most of them are really great.
Yeah, some of them are not so good. But one of the first ones they did was a standalone Wonder Woman animated movie. And oftentimes if I am with somebody in person and I find out that they know little to nothing about Wonder Woman, I loan them my copy of the Wonder Woman animated movie. And I tell them, watch this. It's an hour and a half. Or it's not even an hour and a half. But it's a great introduction to the character. You get her backstory, her connection to the Greek mythology. The main villain of the movie is Ares, and it is really well done. And they even work in the Invisible Jet, and and they have Steve Trevor in there, and her interaction with Steve Trevor, and her being shocked by the way man's world is, but then adapting to it and becoming an ambassador to it. And it's really a great depiction of Wonder Woman. So we're going to recommend some comics to you here in a hot second, but I also highly recommend this animated movie because I think it's a great way for people to be introduced to the character.
For sure.
Yeah. So, but here's the main thing. You may know who Wonder Woman is. You may have even seen her in the animated show, but you may not have picked up her comic book, and that's not surprising. Unless you go out really looking for a comic book, most places where you find comics, unless you're going straight to a comic book store that's really well stocked, they're not going to have a ton of her trades in stock. For
sure, yeah.
Which again is really sad.
And even still, like Amazon, they just weren't printed in high quantity because until Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, Gal Gadot signing on as Wonder Woman didn't get a lot of press. She was a supporting role in the Justice League for decades.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there are still some comics out there, and definitely her more popular comics are the ones that you can find. Some of them are harder to get because of their popularity, most of them been snatched up. But there also have been reprints that have been done. So sometimes you can find those as well. So these are just a few of our recommendations to you guys. The first one I'm going to recommend is the one that I think is probably one of the easier full runs to find because it's fairly recent.
Yeah.
And it's Brian Azzarello's run of Wonder Woman. started with the trade, and it comes out. I think it's like seven. It's 7 or 8 trades that you can get for the entire run that he did, the entire story arc, and it begins with the first one titled Blood, and it's like blood, iron, bone, something like that. Like they're just like very simple titles, and then like the last 3 they kind of left that behind. But in this run, the artwork is really cool. The artwork is a really interesting kind of new spin, new take on comic artwork that I think is really cool. And the story is really great, and you get a nice wide range of her relationship with her mother and her sisters on the island. You get a lot of the Greek mythology coming into it, and new takes on the Greek mythology, and the Greek mythology makes up the essential plot is the firstborn of Zeus, known as just the firstborn, has risen and wants to kill all the gods of Olympus. And in this, we see her relationship with the god War, and him training her as a child, and all this stuff. It's a really great exploration of her character, and it's a fantastic story. And I think it's also really easy to find, because I mean, I'll even see it at Books A Million.
Yeah,
I'll see at least the four or five trades at Books A Million. So
especially with Blood being the first volume in the New 52, so
yeah,
the first volume of that kind of relaunch, but technically the 4th volume of Wonder Woman. It's a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get I'm going to emphasize because I believe it skips over like the true origin, but you get a lot of the origin of Wonder Woman. It
reworks it reimagines the origin. It touches on the original origin, but then reimagines and recontextualizes it. It's like the one part of the story that my wife actually doesn't like. She's like, "No, I like the original origin."
Yeah, but it's a new iteration. So you're starting from scratch basically.
Yeah,
it's the most recent iteration. It's the new aside from Rebirth. I don't know what DC's done with Rebirth.
And I have yet to read Rebirth. I have yet to catch up on what's been happening there. I've just been hearing tidbits, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Fair.
But Brian Azzarello is a great writer. He's done some really good work for DC in the past, and so this is a great run to start with. I'm just going to mention the next one really quickly, and then I'm going to let you take the third one, because I know you want to talk about it. Spirit of Truth. Spirit of Truth is a great run. And it's a great standalone collection or story, just because it was written by Paul Dini. Paul Dini is a legend in the comics world and the DC world. Fantastic writer. He's really good at imagining these characters in like their most iconic form, and he's really good at that. But what's even better than that is Spirit of Truth is. The art is done by Alex Ross, and Alex Ross is known for doing these beautiful, gorgeous, full-page paintings that look lifelike and realistic. And it's just, and he's done, any Alex Ross book, just pick it up and look at it. And if for nothing else, that's reason enough to buy it. But it's a great story that again explores what makes Wonder Woman who she is. But the writing by Paul Dini is fantastic. But the big thing that I would say, for nothing else, just pick it up and look at the artwork, and you'll want to buy it. So that also is a big recommendation.
Yeah.
So I know you want to talk about Gail Simone.
Yes, I do. Gail Simone. Anything Gail Simone touches ever is wonderful. So Gail Simone, most widely known, at least recently, for the work that she's done on Batgirl. She was actually involved with Deadpool for a little while. Birds of Prey.
Mm-hmm.
She's been all over the industry. She actually worked for I think Image Comics doing Red Sonja. She's a genius. She's an absolute genius, and she is an incredible writer. She is very, very good at developing characters. And she did a ton with Wonder Woman, and I recommend all of them.
Yes.
So these are actually the only ones that I've read that have just been like single sit reads for me. So they're called The Circle, and Ends of the Earth, Rise of the Olympians, War Killer, and Contagion. Those are the big ones that Gail Simone did for Wonder Woman. They're excellent. The Circle is really interesting. It has a bit of a prologue, contains, once again, the backstory, the origin for Wonder Woman, and then it moves into the present, which travels down this really interesting Nazi Germany, secret society, supervillain kind of story arc that it's just excellent. It's really, really interesting. And then it carries on into, I want to say it doesn't to be continued into, but it carries nicely into Ends of the Earth, which is the next one that Gail Simone did. But all of those truly excellent. They're very involved. They suck you in. Gail Simone is excellent at that.
I mean, when I read these, I couldn't put them down. Like I powered through them.
Yeah,
in a day.
I'm not a huge Wonder Woman fan. I don't. Nothing against her. I've just never been super interested in the character. And these books were nonstop for me. Like, I put one down and found out Ends of the Earth was, like, I put The Circle down and found out Ends of the Earth was a thing, and I immediately picked it up. Like, I went out and I picked it up. And then after that, same with Rise of the Olympians, War Killer, and Contagion. They're all excellent. Strongly recommend. 10 for 10.
And it's also noteworthy that Gail Simone is one of the few female writers that's ever written for Wonder Woman.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, and not saying that men can't write for Wonder Woman, and there's some great guy writers on here, but it is interesting for one of the most iconic female characters. It's great to see some of the best stories is from this female writer, and I completely agree. Gail Simone is a wonderful writer in the industry, and so anything she writes, you got to check it out. But since we're talking about Wonder Woman, check out her work on Wonder Woman. It's really something special.
Definitely.
The other two big, I'm just going to put these two together because the other two big names, often when you talk to people that know of Wonder Woman, and if you ask them, if you ask anybody who knows Wonder Woman, what should I read or who should I read? These two names are going to inevitably come up. Greg Rucka and George Perez.
Long-time writers.
Yeah, big long-time writers have gone away and come back, and George Perez wrote for Wonder Woman starting in '87, and actually it was his take on the story that was part of that relaunch that DC went through in '86, where they were reimagining all their major characters. Superman and Batman both went through reimaginings and retoolings in the mid '80s as well, and starting with and all of his work has been collected into several trades, starting with Gods and Mortals. And again, it's touching on her origin story, and it was really in the '80s that really brought it back to her mythological roots and the things that really kind of set her apart, the things that the inspiration for her that took her to another level. And George Perez went on to write some great stories, reimagining a lot of her villains as well and making them iconic. And then Greg Rucka is the other name that we mentioned. And I say if you're going to read Greg Rucka, start with the title The Hikatea. But there's some
it's so
really
good.
Yeah, the Hikatea is this has probably one of the more iconic Wonder Woman covers because it's a picture of Batman laying on the ground, and you really can only see his shoulders and his head, and you have Wonder Woman's boot pressed firmly into the side of his skull.
Yeah, I love the Hikatea because it's so so tightly wound around like the mythological aspects.
Yeah, and it's this woman comes to Wonder Woman essentially for asylum, looking for protection, and then it turns out that it's actually Batman who's hunting this woman, so it leads to a conflict and this all-out brawl between the two. And it's much more than just a reason for them to fight. It's actually a really tightly written story. And again, Greg Rucka is another well-regarded voice in her stories and has written some great stuff. So definitely check out anything by those guys. But
that one's
those
definitely tough to find, though. So.
It is. It's I don't own it. I want it. But it's more if you're going to get it, it's probably going to cost you a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are a couple really great writers. And then talk about JLA League of One.
Yeah, the last two that I have, JLA League of One, Justice League of America League of One, probably the most interesting Wonder Woman centric story. It's not a Wonder Woman title, obviously. It's Justice League title, but the story is basically revolving around this like Justice League Civil War kind of thing. They get in like an all-out battle like against each other. A lot of the Justice League don't make it, spoiler alert. And there's also an ancient evil dragon that awakens from his slumber and tries to destroy the world. So it's really interesting. It's by Christopher Miller, and it's super good.
And just again more of so a lot of the art. There's a lot of really cool art moments in this movie, in this one, and the story, and we've got Wonder Woman who's like taking the part of it is like there's also again the Oracle of Delphi has prophesied that this ancient dragon that he mentioned, it's not just something that comes out of nowhere. It's like this ancient dragon that's been foretold would rise and destroy the world, and is also going to destroy the Justice League. So Wonder Woman knocks Justice League out, like puts them out of commission so they aren't in harm's way, and then takes it on herself. And all I'm going to say, like, there's an element of who she is connected with her character and her like lasso of truth and all the stuff that comes into that final conflict with the dragon. That's really cool, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's not to spoil the ending, but
it's still really weird because it's a dragon.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird, but it's really cool, and definitely one of the more out there but interesting JLA titles.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the last one. So for those of you that don't know, the movie that's coming out next Friday is credits Jeff Johns and Alan Heinberg as the screenwriters. Alan Heinberg, who also wrote the OC, he was a writer for Wonder Woman for a while, more in a like one-off capacity. He wasn't as much of a series writer as he was more an arc writer. So he would write story arcs as they presented themselves. One of them is called Who is Wonder Woman? It is definitely a origin-esque story, sort of, but not so much. Basically what it is the Amazon warrior Diana, so kind of not necessarily pre-Wonder Woman, goes missing. It's almost the same name. Donna of Troy. Donna of Troy takes up the mantle. Is that right?
I think so.
It's been a while. But anyways, somebody else takes up the mantle of Wonder Woman. And her name is Donna. Certainly Donna, because it's silly. And then Diana, former Wonder Woman, joins the DC's version of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is called the Department of Metahuman Affairs, And it's very interesting because I don't want to spoil it. It's very interesting because it kind of has that same aspect that a League of One has, where there's like the internal struggle. She is tasked with doing something that she doesn't necessarily agree with. So she's put in this situation where she has to make a decision that is life-altering. And it's really, really good. It is definitely, I would say, more dense than a lot of the other Wonder Woman stories that I've read. Not because it's overly developed or anything like that. It's just, it's heavy. It's heavier, I think. But it's really, really good. And especially with the movie coming out, if you do want to pick one of these up before the movie comes out, I strongly suggest picking up Who is Wonder Woman. It's going to have nothing to do with the movie that comes out, but it will give you a taste of Alan Heinberg's writing and give you a taste of what you can expect in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that is, Gail Simone aside, I think Who is Wonder Woman is probably my favorite Wonder Woman trade that I've read. Aside from Gail Simone.
Yeah, that's and it's good. Like and we just put these out there because, it's for the casual reader, or someone who's new to comics or anything. You might walk even into a comic book store, look around, see a ton of Batman, a ton of Superman, a ton of Green Lantern, and like a little tiny section for Wonder Woman, and think, oh, there must just not be many good comics. No, there are.
Oh, there totally are.
Sometimes you gotta search around, or maybe go talk to the comic book store guy and say, hey, could you order something for me? Maybe they can. Who knows? But there is some really great stuff out there. So if you are at all interested in reading up on Wonder Woman before the movie comes out, those are even
after the movie comes out,
or even after the movie. Hopefully, the movie is great and it will just spawn a whole bunch of fans. And oh man, if the movie was like a hit success, and a lot of these got reprints,
oh man, that's what's going to happen. If it is a huge success, they're gonna start re-releasing some of these, like The Circle. The Circle is impossible to find.
Yeah,
it's out of print. Obviously, it was like 2008, so not that long ago.
We have a copy,
impossible to find,
and I couldn't believe that we found it when we did. We just kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah, I mean, like even JLA League of One is hard to find.
I've never seen that one on shelves.
Our library has it. Our library has a couple copies of it, but it's not an easy one to find at your comic book store. You might be able to find it on Amazon, or I'm sure all of these are available digitally. The easiest ones to find are probably going to be Who is Wonder Woman, because that one's a much bigger name. Spirit of Truth, maybe, just because Alex Ross. And
I think there's also been a deluxe edition of it that's like hardback. That's kind of cost you more, but I think that one's more widely available.
Oh, for sure. But Alex Ross, I mean, everything of his gets reprinted endlessly, and then Blood, anything in the New 52 is going to be a lot easier to find.
Yeah, just Brian Azzarello's whole run, you can find that one super easy.
Oh yeah, your comic book store will have that.
And then of course, like we mentioned, there has been Wonder Woman stuff in Rebirth. I haven't read it yet, so I can't recommend it. I'm waiting until I can go and pick it all up and just sit down in a weekend and read it all.
Drop a couple hundo.
Yeah. It's but I can justify it because my wife and I are both fans, so we're like, no, this is for both of us, so it's worth it.
There you go. That sounds good to me. But
so those are our recommendations,
and they're good, recommendations. So check them out before the movie, after the movie, whenever. Hopefully the movie will succeed. We'll start seeing some Wonder Woman comic reprints. But if you go to your comic book store and they don't have it, ask that they request it, because as a distributor for DC, they can request it back to DC, and if DC sees that there's demand, then they'll reprint. That's one thing I've been a very strong supporter of my entire comic book reading career is if it's not there, tell the shop owner that you want it there.
The publishers will hear about it.
Yeah, because every time they get a shipment, they get feedback, like ways to provide feedback. So tell them that you want a particular book. Tell them you want to see more of a particular character. Something like that. Give feedback to your comic book store. Check out Wonder Woman in print, digital, or on the silver screen next Friday. And even if you don't see it on the silver screen next Friday, we're going to be reviewing it on the show. So you can just check it out with us, and we'll talk through it and spoil it for you.
Yep. And if it's awful, that review might be my last show for a while.
Ever.
I'm going to.
Just gonna go hide.
Chris set himself on fire. So, yeah.
But yeah, let's move out of Topic Thunder and talk about some jams real quick.
Jams.
What's your jam?
So, Chris.
Yeah.
What's your jam?
My jam right now is this kind of what's been my job, or I guess an extension of my job for the last kind of my job for a while now. I earlier this year I finally received certification as an associate instructor for Dueling Arts International, which is it's a
LARPing
national
community?
organization. kind of, except I actually get paid to do it. Dueling Arts International is one of the two major American organizations overseeing stage combat in America. So we work with broadswords and rapier dagger and small swords, swords and shield, and quarterstaffs and unarmed combat.
Kris Too posted a photo to Facebook today, and it for real looked like a LARPing thing. It was awesome.
we had swords and shield, and
it was great.
bashing each other. It's great. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for I've been doing it for the last couple of years, but it's kind of picked up in this last year. I'm a certified teacher for them now, and it's my jam because actually, as I'm recording this, I am on campus at Eureka College in Illinois for a 3-week workshop for the Central Illinois Stage Combat Workshop, and that's what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun. I get to do all this kind of stuff. In addition to like the normal stage combat stuff, we also will do things like Jedi lightsaber training and fun things like that. So
I just immediately thought of Star Wars Kid.
We're better than Star Wars Kid. That is our tagline.
The funniest thing is, for those of you that haven't seen Chris is a taller guy, 6 foot plus.
Yeah, I'm yeah.
And kind of lanky-ish. And
not as lanky.
Not as lanky, but lanky-ish. Yeah. So it's fun to think of Star Wars Kid when also thinking about Chris's physique not matching that at all. You're more the size of a lightsaber than you are the size of a Star Wars Kid.
I'll take it. Thanks. But yeah, that's my jam. I've really been able to throw myself into it. I mean, I teach theater and I direct and I act professionally. This is what I do for a living, and I love doing it. And now this is like a specialized field of stage combat where throughout the year I get to go to workshops and teach people how to fight with broadswords, or theaters will bring me in and hire me to stage fight scenes for them and teach them how to do it safely and effectively. So it's a fun part of my job. I love doing it, and it's been a big part of my life for the past several months, definitely. So
maybe you should teach that to Finn Jones.
Oh.
Anyways,
yeah, they need some help on that show.
That was my backhanded Marvel comment for the month.
All right. No, it deserves it.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so that's my jam. So, hey Chris,
Yeah.
what's your jam?
I have a super outdated jam, and I'm honestly kind of embarrassed about it. So, I've been traveling a lot for work lately, and I have been honestly just crazy busy between my day job and the podcast and doing trivia night and just everything else going on in my life, getting a dog, like all this stuff. I just have not had time to stay up on my shows. And one of my shows is Suits. Suits is a show that comes on, I think it's Bravo, and it is about it's about a law firm. It's a law drama. It's excellent. It is very good.
If you guys haven't watched any of it yet,
man, it sucked me in the first episode, and I don't think there's been a sour episode yet. It's so good. It's so, I mean, definitely not made for the anxious, because it's a very high stress, intense drama. But that being said, I just watched this season's finale, which originally aired on March 1st. So,
finally got around to it.
Yeah. Sorry. But anyways, season 6 is the season that it's on. It was excellent. There's been a lot of drama on the show, obviously. Specifically around the main character, whose name is Mike Ross. And Mike they lay this out in the first season. So Mike is a fraud. He's not actually a lawyer. He goes to work for a law firm. And the whole show is basically about he's a fraud and he works for a law firm. At the end of the season finale, he gets accepted into the bar. Gina Torres, who you guys might know as Zoe from the Firefly series and Serenity film. She is in the film as Jessica Pearson, who is a named partner at the law firm. She makes a return after taking half a season away from the show. Makes a return for like the most victorious moment in the entire episode. It was excellent. Gabriel Macht is Harvey Specter. He's another named partner at the firm. He is the most badass, straightforward, in-your-face lawyer. He is the reason that I have hair on my chest. Like, I just watch the show, and like there are some things that he says, and it's just like, oh, and then boom, hair on my chest. Like he made me a man by saying what he just said. But it's a great show. And it got renewed for a 7th season, which is excellent. I love this show. I think it's very outside of the realm of this podcast, but I definitely think it's
fandom.
Yeah, I think it's something that you people should watch. Like, go back. I'm sure it's on Hulu. Like the first season, or no, you know what? It's on Netflix. The first season of Suits is on Netflix. So. Go back and watch the first season of Suits. Watch the first season of Suits and tell me you don't want to watch that show forever. Also, Prince, whatever his name is, of England, Harry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forgot about. I haven't paid attention to England since 1776. Ooh, freedom mic drop. But anyways, his fiance is the primary love interest on the show as well, Rachel Zane. But that was more of just here's another person on this show. Yeah. But it's a great show. I definitely think give the first season a watch. If you don't like it, pick a fight with me on the internet. Tell me I'm dumb. I don't care. I love the show. It's great. It's excellent. Not scared. And you will enjoy it. You will. I promise. But yeah, that's my jam. Suits season finale, season 6 finale, from March 1st that I just watched 2 days ago. Yesterday, cool. Actually. No. Yeah, like 2 days ago. was great. But yeah, that's my jam.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that's the end of the show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, check out Patreon, Satchel, or Amazon. Those are the 3 ways to do it. Check out our website, betweenthecons.com, where you can stream our episodes online and link out to all of our social media sites. And, of course, if you like our theme music, check out Afixa. He is on Bandcamp, and he makes the dope Zelda dubstep that flows through your ears when we do segues and stuff. But anyways, make sure you guys tune in on Thursday because we're going to be back. We're going to be doing a Pineapple episode for you. We're going to be hitting those headlines for you and giving you the down low on the latest and greatest nerdy news in Pineapple. So tune in on Thursday. You guys have a great week, and we will talk to you then.
I'm spinning out of here. And everything shuts down.